good things will happen.
Behind the fame were surgeries, trauma, betrayal, and a scandal so devastating it nearly wiped Brendan Fraser from Hollywood's memory. Everyone remembers him as the fearless hero, the man who could outrun monsters and survive collapsing tombs. But few knew his real enemy was the pain slowly destroying him from the inside. So how did a legend built on courage vanish into silence for nearly 2 decades? And what broke him so deeply that he almost never came back? The moment that changed everything didn't happen on a red carpet or inside a movie premiere. It happened in a cold, silent hospital room, where Brendan Fraser lay on a metal table, staring at the ceiling lights as surgeons prepared to rebuild what years of stunt work had destroyed. His spine had compressed. His knees were failing. His body, once the symbol of Hollywood heroism, was collapsing under the weight of roles that demanded he be invincible. One doctor told him that if he kept going, he might lose the ability to walk normally. Another warned him of irreversible damage. Yet he kept working, because he thought that was what heroes did. But the physical pain was only half the story. The deeper fracture came later, in 2003, when a shocking encounter left him shaken and ashamed, a moment he would stay silent about for years. The aftermath was quiet. Too quiet. Phones stopped ringing. Offers disappeared. And the man who once carried blockbuster franchises suddenly found himself fading into the background of an industry that had once praised him. In that silence, Brendan realized something terrifying. Hollywood didn't just forget him. It erased him. That was the beginning of his descent. Not a fall from fame, but a slow, painful unraveling of a man who had given everything and lost almost all of it in return. Long before the world crowned him a hero, Brendan Fraser was just a quiet, soft-spoken boy moving from place to place, never fully belonging anywhere. He was born in Indianapolis, but his childhood drifted across cities and borders, from the cold stretches of Canada to small towns that blurred together every time his father's job relocated the family. Suitcases, boxes, and temporary rooms became the backdrop of his early life. Nothing felt permanent. Nothing felt safe. He was the youngest of 4 brothers, the sensitive one, the observer, the child who watched more than he spoke. While other kids built roots, Brendan learned to build masks. Every few years he became the new kid again, walking into unfamiliar classrooms, eating lunch alone, absorbing whispers and stares. That gentle shyness, so often misread as weakness, would later become the emotional depth audiences connected with. But as a boy, it only made him a target. There were nights when he lay awake in dimly lit rooms of rented houses, listening to the hum of old heaters and the muffled arguments of adults trying to keep a family afloat. Money was tight. Dreams felt expensive. The world outside their doors was unstable, shifting, unpredictable, and so he learned early how to disappear into imagination. Movies, comic books, fantasy worlds. They were escapes, not ambitions. He never expected to become the man on the screen. He simply needed somewhere to breathe. But childhood had quieter wounds too, the kind that don't leave bruises but leave shadows. Brendan was sensitive, soft-hearted, easily overwhelmed by conflict. When other boys shouted, he shrank. When they mocked him for being gentle, he retreated further inward. He wasn't built for confrontation. He was built for feeling. And that made everything hurt a little more. Still, there was a spark forming beneath that quiet surface. He discovered theater almost by accident. A school play, a small stage, a brief moment under warm lights where, for the first time, he didn't feel invisible. Acting wasn't about attention. It was about transformation. It allowed him to inhabit bodies stronger than his own, voices louder than he'd ever dare use, worlds where softness wasn't a flaw but a gift. And in those early performances, something extraordinary happened. He found a place where being different finally felt right. His parents noticed the shift, the way he seemed lighter, more alive, as if stepping into characters helped him step out of his own fears. But even then, Brendan carried a subtle ache, a sense that belonging was fragile, that love came with conditions, that stability could vanish overnight. Those early uncertainties carved deep channels in him, channels that fame would later fill, and then painfully empty. What he didn't know, standing on those small stages with trembling hands, was that this gentle boy, bruised by constant change, shaped by silence, protected by imagination, would one day become a global symbol of adventure, strength, and unbreakable courage. And what he knew even less was how cruelly life would later test the softness he fought so hard to defend. Brendan's path into acting didn't begin with dreams of fame. It began with restlessness, the quiet ache of a young man who had spent his entire childhood moving, searching, adapting, never quite fitting in. When he stumbled onto the stage during a small college performance, it felt like breathing for the first time. Here, under the wash of warm lights, he could finally exist without apology. He attended the Cornish College of the Arts, a place that encouraged boldness, rawness, vulnerability. Everything Brendan had been told to hide. The training was brutal, stripping students down to their emotional cores before rebuilding them. But Brendan didn't break. He bloomed. There, he realized something powerful. He didn't need to shout to be heard. His silence, his softness, could speak louder than anyone expected. His first real opportunities came not from privilege, but persistence. He auditioned constantly, walking into casting rooms with nothing but sincerity and a body that was still learning confidence. Directors noticed him, not for arrogance or swagger, but for an innocence Hollywood rarely found. His eyes carried entire stories. His presence felt real in a world addicted to performance. Yet the early years were harsh. He bounced between tiny roles, background characters, bit parts, nameless faces in films that rarely paid enough to survive. He lived frugally, often choosing between meals and travel costs for auditions. He heard the same phrase more times than he could count: not the right fit. Too gentle, too soft-spoken, not leading man material. And every rejection echoed all the quiet wounds of his childhood. The years of not fitting in, of standing on the outside, of being overlooked. But instead of breaking him, it carved him. Every no sharpened his understanding of people. Every setback deepened the emotional well he would later draw from in the performances that defined him. Then came a moment that felt almost unreal. He landed a role in School Ties, acting alongside rising stars and delivering a performance so raw, so earnest, that Hollywood finally turned its head. People saw vulnerability, real, unmanufactured vulnerability, and they were captivated. But Brendan knew what they didn't. Vulnerability is a double-edged sword. It can make you beloved. It can also make you breakable. And as he stepped deeper into the industry, first with Encino Man, then with films that pushed him closer to the spotlight, he didn't yet realize the price he would pay for being the kind of actor who felt too deeply and pushed too hard. He only knew one thing. He was finally being seen. After years of drifting through life like a ghost, the world was calling his name. And he would give everything he had to answer it. Even the parts of himself he couldn't afford to lose. Hollywood didn't just open its doors to Brendan Fraser. It pulled him into the spotlight with a force he never expected. The moment Encino Man hit theaters in 1992, audiences were drawn to him in a way that felt almost elemental. There was something unpolished, genuine, and deeply human about him. He wasn't the typical leading man. He was better. He was real. Then came George of the Jungle. In the summer heat of 1997, Brendan transformed into a sculpted, agile hero, swinging between trees with charm so effortless it felt supernatural. The world fell in love. Kids adored him. Studios wanted him. And overnight, he went from promising newcomer to global sensation. But there was a cost the audience never saw. To bring George to life, Brendan pushed his body beyond its limits. Crazy stunts, dangerous falls, long hours suspended in harnesses that bruised his skin and twisted his muscles. He smiled through it all, unaware that he was laying the foundation for years of physical collapse. Pain became routine. He ignored it. Hollywood rewards endurance, not honesty. Then The Mummy arrived in 1999, the role that would define a generation. Brendan didn't just act. He surrendered himself to the film, running through collapsing sets, jumping off platforms, performing stunts that would terrify even professional stuntmen. He did it all because he believed the audience deserved authenticity. He nearly died filming one scene, when a hanging stunt went wrong and he briefly lost consciousness. The crew panicked. He brushed it off. With the Mummy trilogy, Brendan Fraser became a household name. His face was everywhere. Billboards, talk shows, magazine covers. People called him the next great action hero, a symbol of strength and invincibility. But the truth was darker. Behind the perfect smile and roaring applause, the pain in his body sharpened each year. His spine compressed under years of impact. His knees buckled unexpectedly. He began to hide limps, winces, moments of dizziness. Hollywood demanded he remain the unstoppable hero, so he pretended to be one, even as pieces of him were breaking. He appeared on red carpets wrapped in tailored suits, holding himself tall while pain radiated down his back like shards of glass. He laughed with hosts, even when sitting down felt like needles striking his nerves. Fans cheered louder, unaware that every step felt harder than the last. And beneath it all, another pressure grew, one that fame always brings: silence. No room for weakness. No space for fear. No permission to say, "I'm hurting." The more the world celebrated him, the more invisible his suffering became. Hollywood painted him as indestructible. And he let them. Because he thought that's what a hero was supposed to be. Soon, studios pushed bigger movies, more stunts, more physical demands. He didn't complain. He didn't slow down. He didn't know how. But the cracks were deepening. And behind the flashes of cameras and explosions on set, a quiet countdown had already begun. One that would take everything from him. His body, his voice, his career, and nearly his hope. The rise was spectacular. The fall would be devastating. The collapse didn't happen all at once. It came in fragments. Small, sharp pieces that sliced their way into Brendan's life until everything he built began to bleed. The first break was physical. Years of punishing stunt work had left his body in a state of constant crisis. By the early 2000s, pain chased him everywhere. Simple movements felt like tearing muscle. Standing for too long caused waves of heat to burn up his spine. Doctors delivered diagnosis after diagnosis. Spinal compression, nerve damage, knee deterioration. Each visit ended the same way. Another surgery scheduled, another promise that this will help, another quiet warning that his body wasn't healing the way it should. He underwent procedures so frequently that hospitals became familiar, almost routine. Cold hallways, the sting of antiseptic, the blinding lights above operating tables. They blurred into one continuous memory. He was being stitched together faster than he could break. But still, he kept breaking. And yet, despite the mounting injuries, he kept showing up. 4 roles. 4 studios. 4 fans. He felt he owed them that much. But beneath the physical agony lay a deeper wound, one Hollywood never expected him to speak about. In 2003, at a luncheon meant to celebrate talent and connection, Brendan experienced something that shattered him in a way no stunt ever could. A powerful Hollywood figure, someone with influence over careers, over images, over futures, touched him in a way that violated not just his body, but his voice. It was sudden. It was invasive. And it ripped through him with a quiet violence he couldn't make sense of. Brendan froze. Not from fear, but from shock. From betrayal. From the horrifying realization that even in a room full of industry leaders, he was not safe. For months afterward, he spiraled. Shame crept in like a fog. He questioned himself. He replayed the moment in his mind. He wondered if speaking up would destroy what little stability he had left. And slowly, painfully, a belief began to form. He had been broken, and no one cared. When he finally spoke about it years later, his voice trembled. "I felt like something had been taken from me." A simple sentence, but it carried the weight of years spent locked in silence. What followed was even darker. Suddenly, calls stopped coming. Auditions dried up. Studio offers disappeared without explanation. Projects he was once promised mysteriously slipped through his fingers. It felt orchestrated, or at least, intentional. He wasn't in demand anymore. He wasn't marketable. He wasn't what the studios were looking for. Brendan began to wonder, was this punishment? Retribution? A consequence for not staying quiet enough? Hollywood didn't push him out loudly. It pushed him out quietly, which was far crueler. At home, life offered no escape. His marriage fell apart under the strain of surgeries, financial pressure, emotional exhaustion, and the slow erosion of the man he once was. The divorce was devastating, not just emotionally but financially. He faced spiraling legal costs and obligations he struggled to meet as his income collapsed. He sold properties. He downsized his life. He questioned his worth. And then came the blow that cut deeper than all the others. His son's autism diagnosis. Brendan loved him fiercely, completely. But the responsibility, combined with the pain, the career collapse, and the loneliness, pulled him into a depression so heavy it pinned him to the ground. He stopped making public appearances. He avoided cameras, interviews, red carpets. Even speaking felt exhausting. In private, he cried often. His body hurt. His heart hurt. His identity, the hero, the star, the man who once carried entire franchises, had dissolved. He retreated to a farm away from the noise of the world. There, surrounded by quiet fields and weathered fences, he tried to rebuild himself, piece by fragile piece. But even nature could not silence the questions. How did everything disappear so quickly? Why me? What did I do wrong? Am I still someone worth remembering? The silence was suffocating. Some nights, the loneliness became so thick it felt like a physical presence in the room, pressing on his chest, whispering doubts, reminding him of every rejection, every loss. He wandered the house in the middle of the night, unable to sleep, listening to the creaks in the floorboards and the faint hum of wind outside his windows. He touched old movie posters with trembling fingers, unsure if the man in those images still existed. Hollywood had crowned him a hero. Then it left him to bleed in the dark. He once said quietly in an interview, voice cracking, "I felt like I was disappearing." It wasn't a metaphor. It was the truth. But what he couldn't see, not yet, was that his disappearance wasn't the end. It was a pause. A painful one. A necessary one. A long, cold winter before the faintest hint of spring. Because somewhere out there, far from the noise, a director named Darren Aronofsky would soon be searching for an actor capable of unimaginable depth. Someone who knew heartbreak not from stories, but from scars. And Brendan Fraser, broken but still breathing, was about to be found. The comeback began not with applause, but with a whisper, a small, fragile moment of recognition in a world that had forgotten his name. Brendan was living quietly, far from Hollywood's noise, when the unexpected message arrived. A director, one known for raw, uncomfortable, soul-bearing films, had been watching Brendan's old performances. That director was Darren Aronofsky. Aronofsky wasn't looking for a star. He was looking for a man who had lived through something. Someone who understood grief, loneliness, fragility, not as concepts, but as truths carved into the bones. Every casting choice he considered fell flat, until he saw Brendan Fraser in a small, emotional performance from years earlier. There was pain in Brendan's eyes, but there was also tenderness, the kind only survivors carry. Aronofsky reached out. He wanted Brendan for The Whale, a role built not on spectacle or stunts, but on brokenness, and the courage to face it. When Brendan first read the script, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: recognition. The character's isolation mirrored his own. The guilt, the longing, the quiet hope that people might still find him worthy, it all hit him with unbearable clarity. He cried, not because of the role, but because someone finally saw him again, not as the action hero he once played, but as the human being he truly was. Taking the role was terrifying. He wasn't sure if the world wanted him back. He wasn't sure if his body could handle the grind. He wasn't sure if he was strong enough to expose wounds he'd spent years hiding. But he said yes, because he needed the story as much as the story needed him. On set, something remarkable happened. For the first time in 2 decades, the camera didn't demand strength from him. It demanded truth. And Brendan gave everything. Every trembling breath, every haunted memory, every ounce of love he had left. The crew watched in silence as he performed scenes so raw they felt like confessions. He wasn't acting pain. He was remembering it. And slowly, something inside him shifted. The man who once felt erased began to feel present again, alive again. He later said, "I wanted to know what I was capable of." What he didn't realize then was that the whale would not just revive his career. It would resurrect him. When the whale premiered, the theater fell into a silence so heavy it felt sacred. Audiences didn't just watch Brendan Fraser perform. They witnessed a man opening old wounds and offering every scar as truth. And when the credits rolled, something extraordinary happened. People stood. Not out of habit, not out of politeness, but out of gratitude. Standing ovations followed him from festival to festival. Minutes-long applause that left him trembling. Tears gathering in his eyes as if he could finally feel the warmth he'd been starved of for years. Some viewers wept openly. Others whispered that they'd never seen pain portrayed so honestly. Hollywood, the same world that had once pushed him into darkness, began to circle back. Not with demands, not with expectations, but with respect. His career revival didn't look like the action hero days of the past, and it wasn't meant to. This time, Brendan was stepping into roles that honored the man he had become. Gentler, wiser, softer in the ways that come only from surviving deep loss. But his legacy extends far beyond cinema. Brendan became a symbol of quiet resilience, proof that a person can be broken, forgotten, and underestimated, yet still return with more heart than ever before. He began to speak openly about trauma, consent, physical pain, and the toll of fame, giving voice to the people who felt invisible in their suffering. He advocated for mental health, for kindness within an industry built on pressure and illusion, and for treating artists like humans, not commodities. Most importantly, he embraced fatherhood with a tenderness that defined him more than any film ever could. His love for his sons, especially Griffin, who is autistic, became the anchor that steadied him in the years when everything else fell apart. He once said that Griffin sees the world in ways others cannot, and that raising him taught Brendan how to stay soft in a world that demanded hardness. Then came the moment no one thought possible. His name read aloud at the Academy Awards. Brendan stood on that stage, tears shining under the lights, holding the Oscar with hands that had once trembled from doubt. The world watched a man who had survived the impossible finally being honored for his truth, not his perfection. This was not the same hero from The Mummy. This was a man reborn, not in muscle, not in myth, but in meaning. His legacy is simple, devastating, and beautiful. You can lose everything, your health, your voice, your career, your confidence, and still rise again with a heart stronger than the world ever gave you credit for. Brendan Fraser's journey reminds us that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet endurance of someone who keeps going even when the world stops watching. He lost almost everything: his health, his confidence, his place in Hollywood. Yet he never let bitterness consume him. Instead, he learned to rebuild slowly, gently, from the inside out. His story teaches a truth many people forget. You don't need to return as the person you once were. You can come back softer, wiser, more aware of your limits, and still be powerful. You can rise without armor. You can heal without haste. You can be broken, and still deserving of love, respect, and a second chance. Brendan didn't reclaim his old spotlight. He created a new one born from authenticity, vulnerability, and courage. And so, as his story closes, a quiet question lingers, one only you can answer. So, what's your story?